Yeah, generally, statistically, you are far more likely to be approved with a representative than you are without. However, and we've said this before, not great for business, but it's the truth. You can go it alone. You can go it alone through the whole process, as a matter of fact. The initial level, you need to be mindful of filling out forms. You need to be mindful of keeping up with the deadlines, cooperating with them. If you don't have a rep, I think you can do that. If they deny you, that's when things get a little bit fuzzy. Do you have the capacity to research the law and to why you believe you're disabled? The worst argument that you can make is, I'm just disabled. If anybody saw me, they'd know I'm disabled. Or mentally, if anybody talked to me, they'd know that I'm disabled. Yeah, but what's the law? What are you basing your claim for disability on? And so it all boils down to a representative has expertise. The good ones have excellent expertise, and the okay ones have okay expertise, and the bad ones, don't mess with them. They're going to lead you down a wrong path. And there are bad reps, and there are great reps. There are great reps that compete with me, and I wish I could say that they're horrible, but they're really good. So there are good ones, there are bad ones, there are kind of middle of the road ones. But when you're denied, you really do have to have a reason to tell them you were wrong. You were wrong in the denial. For example, there's a lot of shop talk that Social Security is going to use. They're going to give you an RFC, and they go, do you know what an RFC is? Well, you don't have that expertise. Well, an RFC is a residual functional capacity. And, well, what does that mean? Well, then it means that you can do medium work, or you can do light work, or you can do sedentary work. Your past work was medium, light, sedentary, might have been heavy. Do you know what those definitions mean? And are you willing to do the research, to take the time? And then when you get that knowledge, do you have the expertise to make an argument that will make sense to Social Security? Okay, you said that I have a light RFC, but I don't believe that I can, perform the work as that's defined. I believe that I'm limited to sedentary work at best, and I'm 50 something years old, and therefore you should find me disabled. Now you're citing law. Could you do that? So you need, after you've been denied, personally, I do believe that you need a representative. And then if you're denied again, this is where I believe that it borders on foolishness not to get a representative. And that is, if you're denied at the reconsideration level and you appeal for a hearing, if you think that you can go to a hearing, and people do it all the time, if you think you can go to a hearing and argue your case with a judge and then cross-examine the vocational witness that the judge is going to call, good luck to you, because that is where a representative really will shine, especially if they do their homework and they know what they're doing. They want to make an argument to the judge, and the judge, they're supposed to be just kind of an impartial fact finder, so they're not leaning one way. We know that they are, but they're not leaning one way or another. When you walk through the door, and you're supposed to push them in the direction of this, my client is disabled and this is why. And you're going to cite law, and you're going to cite medical records, and you're going to cite how the medical records fit that law. And then the vocational witness might give some testimony that's damaging. Well, what would you do if you're all by yourself and you're the vocational witness? The judge asks a question. If an individual, Mr. Smith, Mr. Smith, I'm going to ask some questions here. Just listen to the vocational witness testify. If Mr. Smith here was able to lift 50 pounds occasionally, 25 pounds frequently, they'd be able to be on their feet all day long. They could sit or stand it however they want to. Posturally, they might have some frequent limitations, crawling and crouching. Could this individual perform any work in the national economy? Oh, yes, Your Honor, that person could do this, and here are 3 jobs, and here are the numbers of those jobs as they exist in the national economy. What do? You're a representative. You decided to go it alone. You're in a hearing. Somebody's just testified that that individual that the judge asks a question on, it's you, by the way, that person can work. And are you going to challenge that? You're going to ask any questions? Well, what if that same individual, had to take 3 unscheduled breaks and they're 15 minutes each? And this is unscheduled breaks. This is beyond the 3 breaks you normally get in an 8-hour workday. What would be the impact then? Would you ask that question? Would you be, prepared enough to ask that question? The vocational witness says, well, this, person could do, forklift operator and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And there are 373,000 of those jobs in the national economy. How'd you come up with that 373,000 number? Where'd that come from? Are you prepared enough to answer that question and challenge them when they say, well, my education and experience, and my, I use a software program. You're getting your testimony from a commercially available software program, and yet you're coming into this hearing puffing out your chest with the term expert on your shirt, but you got your numbers from a software program. Okay, are you prepared to give that kind of cross-examination to the vocational witness? Well, your rep will, because that's what we do. I mean, and we do it in a way that's non-confrontational. There's no heated arguments in a hearing most of the time. So a rep is going to know the law. They're going to know procedures. For our firm, at the lower levels, the initial case, after you guys in intake take the case, we file the case for you. And that might seem like, hey, no big deal, file a case. I am super speedy on those because I've been doing this for 35 years. I can do one, but it takes me 30 minutes. I mean, I can't do one quicker than that. So we're right out of the gate, we're going to spend, half an hour just getting your case launched online. So that's one of the things that our firm does. We will file your application for you.
And if you did it yourself, it would take significantly longer.
Oh yeah,
because
we do we do a gazillion of them.
Yeah, if you did it yourself, you're not going to take 30 minutes.
Oh yeah, you got to think about it. You're online because that's the way you have to do it now. And let's say you have 8 providers that you see. 8. I got 8 doctors. Well, I got 7 doctors and a therapist. You have to put in every one of their names, every one of their addresses, every one of their phone numbers, every one of their dates of treatment. And if it's a hospital, they want to know what dates you were there as an inpatient, what dates you were there as an outpatient, what dates you went there just for an x-ray or some ancillary study. You got to do that, 7 or 8 times. You're going to be, an hour and a half, 2 hours into this process. And we do it really, really quickly. But that's not really that quick if you think about it. 30 minutes is about as quick as I think that we can do them. But that's just to launch your case. I think one of the things that a good representative firm, in fact, I think this is probably what separates the good ones from the bad ones. A good representative firm is going to call you periodically. And they're going to basically say, man, we haven't heard anything, but I wanted to get with you, just check in with you. We haven't forgotten about you. I want to once again verify your case is active. It is being processed by Social Security. They move at a snail's pace, but I want to check in with you. How are you doing? What kind of treatment have you had? You are still going, right? I'm going to be a cheerleader. You got that's the secret. The secret sauce to winning a disability case is persistence and ongoing treatment. You're in treatment. That's how we prove you're disabled, is by the medical records that your treatment generates and we get and submit to Social Security. So we'll be a cheerleader. We'll check in with you, hopefully give you some peace of mind that your government hasn't forgotten about you, because they take forever to do these cases. But I'm not going to downplay the importance of a cheerleader. I say that, and you might think of pom-poms and a short miniskirt. What I mean by a cheerleader is we're going to continue to encourage you through a time that you're going to feel incredibly discouraged, and you're going to feel like you've been forgotten. A rep serves an invaluable role in those kinds of cases where, yeah, they're taking forever, but we've checked with them. We've checked with them either electronically, and we can say that case is still going and it's still there. We're good to go. Or we checked with them. Hey, Mr. Smith, he's been waiting 7 months. You guys going to get a decision out anytime soon? And we do that all the time. So that's what reps do. So I don't want to downplay the role of a cheerleader and encourager. I call them cheerleaders, but we're just encouraging you, because what's the secret sauce again? Persistence. I tell my clients, and I think I've said it in the podcast, my reputation as a representative within and without Social Security is I am highly persistent. There are so many firms that do not take a case after they've lost at the hearing level. Like, why?
Yeah.
You thought your case was so good that you went out and you puffed out your chest in front of a judge. The judge said no, and therefore, you must not be disabled. You believed in it, several months ago, but now you don't believe in it, and they drop your case. And what do I do now? Well, you still have another level within Social Security. It's called the Appeals Council. And then if the Appeals Council denies you, you can sue Social Security in federal court. Does my firm do that? We partner with attorneys that absolutely do that. We partner with almost a dozen now attorneys all over the nation. Here's, Mr. Smith's been denied. This is why I don't believe he should have been denied. Da, 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 da. And what happens is, if they get a remand, and about 75% of the time they do, it comes back to us again. We know the case. It's coming back to us. We're going back in front of the judge again. The judge is going to have to clean up his mess, and we do that. I would say we're probably 5% of the firms that do that. If you didn't win at the hearing level, just start all over. Start a new claim. And we're not going to help you. But if you get denied again, we might help you again.
Yeah.
The way you helped them by dumping me after the hearing was denied. So I just don't want to downplay how important having a encourager / cheerleader is. If we took your case, unless there was just something that we didn't find out until later, or the medical records showed something completely different than what we expected, if we took your case, it's because we believed we can win the case. And unless that's changed, medical records, you went to work, you lied to us, unless that's changed, I'm going to take your case as far as you let me take your case.
Yep.
And that's my reputation, and that's why I tell my clients, I don't see no or denied from Social Security as the final decision. I just see that I haven't convinced you yet.
Yep.
I'll convince you on the appeal.
Yeah.
If you have a question about your disability case, give us a call at 615-453-9151 Monday through Friday, or click the link in the description of this video.